Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today is day number 11 of the 21-day meditations going deeper, and I've got an interesting one for you today. First, I want to make note about the unhappy passing of Pope Francis and how his legacy is mentioned in this meditation today. So I wanted to make you aware of this. I'm not Catholic. I've never subscribed to the Catholic faith, although I did do a good deal of research on the Benedictine monastery back in the early 2000s when I was writing a novel about it. But so I have not a good understanding of Catholicism, but I have a basic understanding of it, and that the people revere the leader of their church in a very positive way. And so I want to do that with all respect to them, and my condolences and my sincere sadness that this wonderful individual is no longer with us, but he is in the spirit world now, and he is, I believe he is happy and he is safe and he is in a good place. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pull today's card, and then I will start with the meditation. So I gotta give these guys a good shuffle here. And again, I'm using the Gilded Tarot by Ciro Marchetti. And I'm just going to keep mixing these until my guides tell me to stop. At any rate, I know that many religious people do not practice tarot. They're not interested in cards or readings or what have you. And to me, tarot is a tool like any other. You use it to have a better understanding of yourself, of the world around you, of questions and answers and things of that nature. So that's why I use them. And I don't put all my eggs in one spiritual basket, if you will. I use the cards to help me navigate spiritual ideas and concepts. So here we go. One more. Okay, here we go. So the card for today, I had the Queen of Pentacles a couple of days ago. Well, today I have the King of Pentacles. And he seems to be sitting on the throne, the same as the Queen. Actually, I think I did pull this card before. Very, very, a very prosperous king. Someone who is has the prosperity at his side, and the good husband, the good father, the good individual. So it doesn't surprise me that with regard to someone like Pope Francis, who exhumed all of these qualities of goodness and kindness, decency, humility, and care, that he would also be personified by the King of Pentacles. He is he was indeed a very good man. He was very humble. He came from humble beginnings. He was always kind, and he always showed himself to be a very kind man, and very humble in his way. So this is a very good card for him. It's also a very good card as a reminder to us that the legacy of this man is that of kindness and gentility, and although he sat in a church that was very, very prosperous, the idea of them doing good works and good deeds for others is magnified by this card. So that is the card for today. Had it a few days ago when I spoke to my own father, so very interesting that this pops up again. So I'll put this aside, and I'm going to start the meditation. I wrote day number 11. Today's April 22nd, 2025. And I start by saying, today I saw something very touching. Yesterday the Pope transitioned. I'm not Catholic, but I think the world suffered a tremendous loss. I know we have discussed this in pretty good detail, but why is it that the good people are leaving and we are stuck with all these bad apples? It just feels unfair. A man who had a tremendous voice, one who made a difference to so many, and he has to go. It is heartbreaking. And Ramón says, "Are you done venting?" And I said, "No, I'm not done, but it is where I am starting. Please explain to me why the universe is taking all these people who have the capacity to be heard, specifically by those brainless twats who seem to be running the show." And Ramon says, "We discussed this in detail, Yvette, but I can see where your frustration comes from. You are frustrated. The people who have the ability to stand up to tyranny are exiting the scene, leaving light workers without a beacon. But what you must know and understand is that you yourselves are the beacon of light. You are the ones who must move forward in this life and use the example to make things right. The reality is each individual light worker has the capability to bring forward as much light as the great religious leader. The example of humility, which encapsulate the man, should be the goodness and kindness that you can take as an example on this journey towards planetary change. Do you believe in all honesty that the man who had humble beginnings could one day take the role of leadership?" And I said, "Yes, and it seems that those who grew up in this way truly have an enormous foothold on the concept of humility." And Ramon says, "As Jesus said, it is easier for a camel to walk through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the gates of heaven. This is why the wealthy are so afraid of the humble. They do not like the humble because that simple act of humility is a threat to their control. The forces of the universe are more powerful than the wealthy man's attempt at making people worship him at his altar of greed and selfishness. By using force to make themselves seem strong is the ultimate sign of weakness. That is why so many people see that weakness for what it is, a futile attempt to appear strong. When a person has to always prove their fortitude, then that is the surest singular action that shows that they do fall short. It is what this humble Pope wanted to share with the world. When he did this, it was his time to move along on his journey. The other thing about him is he always knew what transition was, what he not only was expected spiritually, but what he expected of himself. Do you believe for even a moment that someone like the tyrant running the government in the U.S. will ever have people mourning his passing when that day does ultimately come?" I said, "No, people will be celebrating. I know that seems so unkind to say, but I will be one of those." And Ramon says, "You will know that the day of tyranny by this man will end and people will have to see him for what he is." As Pope Francis was a man that people were able to see for what he is in the earthly sense. People will recognize that he was a good and gracious leader. The nasty men of history look upon such good and humble people as weak, but weakness is not what many people believe it to be. Strength emerges in the heart of a person, the willingness to humble oneself before their God or Jesus or even those who they serve. They demand of others to show homage merely serves as a means of fear. Fear is what these tyrants are embodied in, the realization that people truly do not like them, so they have to try and force that sort of adherence to their rules, their power, their authority. But what is so shocking about these good people is the idea that by being humble is to show the world that true equality exists. That is what Pope Francis did. He made himself humble before those he served. He knew from the start of his journey that he was there in service of the people, not in service of self. That is the difference between him and the current resident of the White House. I said, "I appreciate that you do honor this person in the White House with no acknowledgement of a name." Ramon says, "You are understanding that by using their proper name is to add validation to them, and their behavior does not exude any notion of validation. Pope Francis deserves the validation." I said, "He will be missed. I want to talk to Fred Rogers. Are you here?" And he says, and Mr. Rogers says, of course I am, Yvette. How are you doing? I said, I'm okay. I thought about you throughout the day, and I was wondering if you have been watching what is going on here. And Mr. Rogers says, yes, I've been watching. I know that you were sad when you heard about the Pope, but is in a good place now. His work has been completed. He will not soon be forgotten, but he doesn't want you to be sad. You understand that all of the things that he has done will be remembered, and what Ramón has said is also the truth. For every season there is a time to every purpose under heaven. And I said, turn, turn, turn. I love that song. And Fred Rogers says, I know you do. But this is also a quote from the Bible, and it is an idea that most righteous people have borne witness to. All the things that transpire happen for a divine reason. The divine purpose will never fade from view. The passing of good person becomes the example for positive living that you can take with you. One must not have a massively huge following. One must simply live for the day, a moment in time when goodness and mercy will follow. Those who choose money over life and use people for personal gain will find that when they come for a review of their life, they will feel sorrow for not having learned the lessons that they should have been there for them. This is the difference between weakness and strength. The man who takes but never gives, who believes that they are always right and never wrong, and who must prove their level of rightness, will never see the day that they are actually right, because the shadows will fall and cover their eyes. They may like to surround themselves with those shadow figures who argue how good and right they are. But once that day comes when they must pass away, the yes people will have to find the courage and strength to walk out on their own. Will they have the courage to do so? Will they be able to stand on their own 2 feet and display that courage? Perhaps not. Maybe in this moment, the Pope's transition marks a moment in human history where all of those who followed his example must now stand on 2 feet and declare that they are able to stand firm in their faith and follow the example that was put forth to them. I call that being the helpers, being the ones who will lend a hand. 2 days ago, you did just that. You and your husband made a choice to visit a friend and helped her. That is what Pope Francis has asked of the people of his faith, to go forward and help others be the shining example of humility that he was. That is what led me to the ministry, and it is what will guide you and others along on your spiritual journey. This is what it is about. This is why he transitioned and why you must not be sad. Release him, but hold tightly to the idea that his legacy of goodness and kindness and faith will continue on. I said, I just got the idea about Star Wars, the line, if you strike me down, I will come back more powerful than you can imagine. And Fred Rogers says, yes, Yvette, that is his legacy. The idea is, instead of there being one man who can lead, there can be 1,000 or millions who can take up the mantle and magnify his legacy. That is where you are at this moment. You will see this come to pass as days proceed forward. I said, that's really beautiful. And Fred Rogers says, this is merely the truth. The legacy will move forward, and you will find that in the days to come, people will begin to do the works like he has done. The examples of goodness are around you. Just open your eyes and you will see them. And I said, I am so blessed by you. I know that you are very humble, but your kindness can never be understated. And he says, you honor me with your friendship, Yvette. And I said, take care, my friend. And Ramón says, that has helped. Has helped, I hope. I said, it has in so many ways. And Ramón says, good. Now go forth and continue to do these good works. And I said, I will. Thank you. So that is where we ended. And I have to say that was pretty amazing. Yes, I feel that the energy is shifting a little bit. But I'm also seeing that there are so many points of light and so many people who are out there doing and being the leaders and the helpers that they are destined to be. And so that's where we can take comfort. And I'm going to pull another card. I'm just going to take one off the top here and see what it is. And this one is the Two of Wands. And I think this is beautiful because this outlines a path forward, and two ways that you can decide, two ways to go. You can go to the left, you could go to the right. But that is the crossroads where we are now at. We can decide, do we want to live as Pope Francis lived, as Fred Rogers lived, or do we want to make a choice to not follow the examples that these men have set forward for us? It is always going to be up to us. The choice is going to be ours to make. Will we continue down a path where the legacy of the good and kind and gentle man will be our guiding light, or will we turn away from that and choose the darkness? The choice is there, and it is ours to make. So I don't think I even have to look up what this card signifies. I think I already know. So I thank you for being here. I thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and take care. And as always, namaste.